Good morning everyone. Myself Sesha from the Department of Pharmaceutics. In the last class, this is a formulations topic from the third year PharmD actually. Uh, Previously we started this topic, and in this topic we already discussed about the introduction about the parenterals and general requirements for the parenterals, and after that what are the various routes of administration is there for the parenterals, and then surfactant means formulation means nothing but what are the various ingredients you are used to prepare a parenteral product. Like maximum of commonly all the parenteral products are having API will be there, that is nothing but the drug substance, active pharmaceutical ingredient, and along with the API other ingredients nothing but excipients will be included. In that excipients, the major portion of the excipient is the vehicle only, because the parenteral formulation means that is the liquid formulation only. The drug substance either will be solubilized or suspended in a suitable solvent. That suitable solvent is called as vehicle, and so one of the excipient is the vehicle. Along with the vehicle and the API, some other ingredients will be added to maintain the perfect means to meet the requirements of the parenteral products. Like the product must be isotonic, so that's why we need to include some isotonicity adjusting agents like lactose or sodium chloride or borax will be added to maintain the isotonicity of the product. In the same way, buffers will be used to maintain the pH of the product, and sometimes we need to include some preservatives where you require the preservation from the microbes or bacteria or some other pyrogens. So these are the various ingredients generally used to prepare the parenteral products, and this topic is comes under the formulation of the parenteral product. And after that we also discussed about the classification of the parenteral products. Generally we can classify the parenteral products into two types. First one is large volume parenterals and second one is small volume parenterals. So about the large volume the classification also we discussed, and now I already said to you that along with the API number of excipients will be included to prepare the parenteral product. Among all those ingredients, the major portion of the ingredient is the vehicle only, and before this vehicle we already discussed about other ingredients like surfactants, tonicity agents, chelating agents, bulking agents, and here also we discussed about emulsifying agent. So remaining all about the remaining excipients, everything we already discussed, and what is remaining means that one is nothing but the vehicle. So now we need to discuss about the vehicles which are generally used in the preparation of the parenteral products. We know that two types of vehicles we can use, both aqueous vehicles and also oily vehicles. So coming to the oily vehicles, mostly we are used either vegetable oils, maximum vegetable oils only will be used, and some other non-polar solvents also we can include it as the vehicle. And now coming to the aqueous vehicle, the most widely used aqueous vehicle is the water only. Not only in this parenteral, generally in every liquid dosage form we are used the water as the vehicle. So coming to the parenteral product, alone the water is not used. The water will be used, but the water should have some specific characters like water for injection, nothing but the distilled water will be prepared. So distilled water will be used in the preparation of the parenteral product. So for the preparation of this distilled water, what are the various procedures we are generally used, we will see. So distilled water also we can call it as the water for injection, and here water for injection means nothing but the water which is must be odorless, colorless and tasteless only, and this is not including any other constituents. Generally if you take a normal potable water or our drinking water, it is having different types of the ions, but coming to this water for injection, without any ions, just freely from ions, normal pure water only we are using. it should not have any ionic substances or some other heavy metals, nothing will be present. So the pure water only we are taking. So generally how it is prepared means water for injection is obtained this water for injection is obtained from potable water or purified water by distillation. So normally our drinking water only we are using, but that drinking water directly we are not using. From that potable water, the water will be taken for the distillation process. After the distillation we can prepare the water for injection. So how you can prepare this distilled water means, here we are generally using three types of processes. First one is compression distillation, second one multiple effect still, and third one reverse osmosis. So by using any of these three methods we can prepare the distilled water. So first one is the compression distillation. So what is the procedure involved in this compression distillation means, coming to the principle, this is the principle involved in the compression distillation. First one, vapor compression still primarily designed for the production of large volumes of high purity distillate with low consumption of energy and water. So which type of compression still we are using? That is nothing but vapor compression still. So vapor compression still will be used for the distillation of the potable water. And also here it is having one advantage, that is nothing but low consumption of energy and water. With the less consumption of the water and less consumption of the energy only we can purify the water. So that is one advantage here. And next one, vapor compression processes produce water 5 to 10 times more cost effectively than multiple effect distillers. I already said to you we have three types of distillation processes here. First one compression distillation, second one multiple effect, third one reverse osmosis. If you are comparing the first two, compression distillation and multiple effect still, in this compression distillation we can prepare 5 to 10 times more effectively we can make the purified water, nothing but water for injection. So economically this first one is the best one comparing with the second one. And coming to the procedure, see the first step here, in a vapor compression still, the boiling process begins with both heating elements. So in the equipment we can see that two types of heating elements will be present. So when you are added the water, these heating elements helps for giving the heat source to the potable water. For the boiling purpose we need to give some external source of heat will be provided. That heat is obtained from these heating elements. So inside the equipment heating elements will be there. With the help of that heating elements the water will start boiling. And next one, in the compressor, the steam is pressurized, which raises the steam's temperature before it is routed through the special heat exchanger located inside the boiling chamber. So in the first step, the potable water will be boiled with the help of the heating elements. As the water in the boiling chamber reaches near boiling temperature, the compressor turns on. So when the heat is applied with the help of the heating elements, the water will start boiling, and when it reaches the boiling point it gets immediately vaporized. It starts vaporization process. So when it is vaporized, then inside the equipment compressor will be there. The compressor will start switched on, means automatically the system will be work. First heating elements will work, after the boiling of the water the compressor will switched on. And in the second step, in the compressor the steam is pressurized. So what is meant by compressor? Compressor means nothing but it compresses the steam. In the first step, through the heating elements the water will be boiled and it will form vapors. Nothing but steam will be produced. That steam will be passed through the compressor. So in the compressor the steam will be compressed, means nothing but pressurized. At higher pressure the steam will be compressed. So there which raises the steam's temperature before it is routed through the special heat exchanger located inside the boiling chamber. So within the compressor, the pressure of the steam will be raised. So and after that the steam will be passed through the special heat exchanger which is present inside the equipment only. And after that the pressurized steam gives off its heat to the tap water inside the boiling chamber, causing this water to boil, which creates more steam. Generally what happened here, steam is produced with the help of the heating elements. Then that steam will be passed through the compressor. In the compressor, it applies some higher pressure on the steam. Now the pressurized steam gives off its heat to the tap water. So tap water means nothing but here we are taking the potable water from the tap. So this water we want to purify. How we can purify? Generally for the boiling of the water, just we will boil by the application of the heat, but here the heat is produced by the steam. How the steam is generated? In the first step only we discussed about how the steam is generated. When the water is passed into the boiling chamber, there heating elements will be there. So with the help of the heating elements, heat will be generated, means temperature will be applied on the water. When the water reaches the boiling point, it will start boiling. So boiling means nothing but the water will be converted to vapor. Vapor means nothing but that is the steam only. So now the steam will be passed to the compressor in the second step. So in the compressor means nothing but it creates a higher pressure on the steam. Now the highly pressurized steam acts as the heating source for the boiling of the tap water. And now the pressurized steam will give its heat to the tap water inside the boiling chamber, causing this water to boil, which creates more steam. Now this tap water will get boiled and it will start generation of the steam. The next step, while the pressurized steam is giving up its latent heat, the steam will condense. One of the heating elements will cycle on and off. So pressurized steam is giving latent heat to the tap water. Then the tap water will start boiling. After that, when the tap water is boiled, so already the water is boiled, so and it is forming the steam also. Now the steam must be condensed to collect the pure water for the injection. So how can you collect the steam? So now the steam will be comes to the somewhat cool temperature, lower temperature, then only condensation process takes place. So first initially with the help of the pressurized steam, the tap water is boiled. Now the tap water is forming the steam. Now the steam must be converted to liquid once again, then it will be collected through the outlet. So for the collection of that condensed liquid, there is a process takes place, nothing but condensation will occur. How the condensation occurs? Here condensation means nothing but conversion of the vapor into liquid is called condensation. Where the condensation generally occurs at a lower temperature comparing with the boiling chamber. So in the boiling chamber, because of the pressurized steam, there is a higher temperature. Okay, now the tap water is boiled and it is forming the steam. So steam is formed. Now we should collect the steam by the condensation process. So to achieve that condensation process, here the heating elements inside the boiling chamber will get switched off and switched on periodically, depends on the requirement. So once the heating element is switched off, there will be somewhat lower temperature because the temperature of the steam will be reduced. When the temperature is reduced, then the steam will be converted into liquid. Now this condenser liquid finally we can collect from the outlet. Now the condenser liquid what you are collected, that is not completely cooler, it is somewhat having some high temperature. But comparing with the boiling temperature, this condenser liquid is having the lower temperature only, because after the condensation only we are collected this condenser liquid. So this is the procedure used in the preparation of the water for injection by the vapor compression still. So nothing is there. What is happening in the vapor compression still? First step, in the first step, water will be boiled in the boiling chamber. That is the source of the heat. So how the water will be boiled means, inside the heating chamber there will be heaters, nothing but heating coils will be there. So these heating coils will helps for the boiling of the water. Now this boiled water creates the steam. This steam will be passed into the compressor in the second step. In the compressor, high pressure will be exerted on the steam. So now the highly pressurized steam act as the heating source for the boiling of the tap water. What is happening in the third step? The highly pressurized steam gives its latent heat to the tap water. Now with the help of this pressurized steam, the tap water will get boiled and it is also converted into vapor. Now this vapor must be condensed to collect the liquid. How it will be condensed? Condensation means nothing but conversion of the vapor into liquid. So where the condensation occurs, inside the equipment only condensation takes place, but for the condensation process the temperature must be decreased. How the temperature will be decreased? Inside the boiling chamber there will be heating coils. So depends on that requirement, the heating coils, two heating coils will be there actually. One of the heating coil will get switched on and switched off, depends on the requirement. When it is switched on to produce the steam, that is nothing but heat source for the boiling of the tap water. Okay, when it will be switched off, when the steam is formed from the tap water, that steam will be converted into liquid. So to achieve the condensation process, here one of the heating element will be switched off. So this is a continuous automatic process, switching all of that heating coils, after that switched off, then first of all boiling of the water, next compression, after that again the tap water will be boiled, and in the fourth step the tap water which is forming the steam, that will be converted into condenser liquid. Finally this condenser liquid what we are collected, that is only we are used in the preparation of the parenteral products. This is nothing but water for injection. And now second one, this is multiple effect still. So multiple effect still, what is happening here? Multiple, by the name we can understand that actually this is one boiling chamber. So one of the equipment, the same boiling chambers will be serially connected one by one. So by this way we can reduce the power consumption and energy consumption, something we can economically, it is a better one when you are connecting serially one by one. Actually for example, if you are consider only one boiling chamber, the quantity of the liquid here we are obtained may be somewhat low, but the same chambers when you are connected serially, finally from the last one we can collect a more portion of the distilled water, and also here economically it is better and the quantity obtained that is better, and also the process is not a batch process, continuous process, because one by one serially we are connected. So that's why batch process means a single equipment. If you are using a single equipment, that is the batch process, but here we are connected serially number of stills, and also here 3 are there generally in this diagram, but we can connect up to 7 stills. This is one distilled still. In the same way 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, up to 7 stills we can connect serially. What is the purpose of this serially connected means? Nothing but to achieve the continuous procedure. So from one step to another step it will be continued. It is then we can avoid the batch process, and time consuming, energy consuming, everything will be better. That's why we are connected serially like this. And coming to the principle, it is also designed to conserve the energy and water. Yes. And after that, in principle, a series of single effect stills running at different pressures. So different pressures. I said to you that serially connected one by one all the stills, but those stills are running at a different pressures, not at the same pressure. Each chamber is having a particular pressure. Okay, a series up to 7 effects may be used, with the first effect operated at highest pressure and the last effect is operated at the atmospheric pressure. So I said to you that up to 7 stills we can connect one by one serially, and here the first one will act at the highest pressure and the last still will act at the which is operated at the lowest pressure, and in this way we can enhance the capacity of the still, and the quantity of distillate will also be affected by inlet steam. Yeah, so what is the procedure happen here, we will see. Steam from the external source is used in the first effect to generate steam under pressure from feed water. It is used as a power source for second effect. The steam used to drive the second effect condenses as it gives up its heat of vaporization and forms a distillate. The process continues until the last effect, when the steam is at atmospheric pressure and must be condensed in a heat exchanger. Yeah. So if you see the diagram, then we can understand. Sea water feed. Sea water feed means nothing but this is the potable water we are taking. Generally normal water we are taking from the upper inlet. So, and this is the steam. Steam means from the externally we are giving some source of heat. Steam should be provided, then only the water will get boiled. So for that boiling we are providing externally a steam into the still. So the steam will be entered into the chamber. It helps for the boiling of the feed water, nothing but tap water what you are taken. And that too, here we are also using the vacuum. What is the use of that vacuum? Vacuum means nothing but in this equipment the principle involved is distillation under reduced pressure. When you are using the vacuum, at the reduced pressure only the water will start boiling. Nothing is there actually. We are taking the water only here. Generally when the water will gets boiled, when the temperature reaches the 100 degrees, then the water will gets boiled. That is the actual principle. But when you apply the vacuum, the water will gets boiled at a temperature lower than its boiling point. So no need to wait for 100 degrees centigrade. Below the 100 degrees only the water will gets boiled. That is the use of the vacuum here. Vacuum means nothing but distillation under reduced pressure. So by applying the vacuum, reduced pressure will be created inside the still. So by this way the water will gets boiled at a temperature lower than its boiling point. What is the actual boiling point of water? 100 degrees centigrade. But here no need to wait for up to 100 degrees centigrade. Below the 100 degrees centigrade only water will gets boiled. So for that purpose we are using the vacuum. So steam will be applied into the chamber. With the help of this steam the potable water will gets boiled, and now after the boiling the water will start vaporization process. Nothing but the water will be converted to steam. Now the produced steam in the first chamber will be passed into the second chamber. Okay, the produced steam from the first chamber will get passed into the second one. See this one, the dark blue color we can observe, that is nothing but potable water only, and when you are applying the heat, that is steam, with the help of the steam we are getting boiled the potable water. Now the water undergoes vaporization process at a temperature lower than its boiling point, and then the formed vapors will be passed into the second still. Can you see the light blue color line here? That is nothing but from the first still the vapors of the potable water will be passed into the second still. Okay, so when the steam is passed into the second still, here no need to give the external steam source. How the water will be boiled? With the help of the steam which is produced in the first still only. Actually, if you see the first one, here we are providing some external steam source to create heat, to generate the heat for the boiling of the water. Okay, but coming to the second still and third still, we are not applying any external steam source. Then how the water will be boiled? The water will be boiled with the help of the steam which is produced in the first still. So first steam will be provided, the potable water will get boiled. After the boiling, the water will form vapors. Can you see the vapors here? The vapors will be moved into the second still. So these vapors, nothing but this steam helps for the heating of the water which is present in the second still. So in the second still also boiling occurs with the help of the steam which is produced in the first still. Now in this second still, the boiling water, the potable water undergoes boiling and it is also forming the steam. Now from the second still, the steam will be passed into the third still, and again here the steam which is came from the second still act as the heating source, and here also the potable water will get boiled. So what you can understand from this one, no need to give the heating source individually to all the stills. Once you given the heating source to the first one, it is enough. This one will generate the steam in the first still. So from the first still, again the steam will be passed to second still, water will be boiled, and from this second still, after the boiling of the water, whatever the steam it is created, that one will be again sent to the third still. Here that steam will create the heat source for the boiling of the water. And finally in the third still, after the condensation of the liquid, means steam is generated here also, the generated steam will be condensed here, and finally we can collect here, collect through the outlet. So finally this collected fresh water only we are used in the preparation of the parenteral product. This is about the multiple effect distillation. Multiple effect distillation. And also what is the principle involved here? The principle involved is the distillation process occurs under reduced pressure. How you can reduce the pressure? By the application of the vacuum. So vacuum pumps will be connected to all the stills at the top of the chamber, and only for the first chamber we need to provide the external steam source, and coming to the second and third, no need to provide any external steam source, and whatever the steam generated in the first still, that one only carry forward to the second still, and again in the second still steam will be generated, that one will be carried forward to the third still. So by this way we can conserve the energy consumption, we can reduce the consumption of energy. So this is about the multiple effect distillation. And third one is reverse osmosis. If you see the diagram, we can understand. Yeah, reverse osmosis. Actually, what is meant by osmosis? Osmosis means nothing but the process of movement of molecules from higher concentration to the lower concentration through the semi-permeable membrane. That is called osmosis. So where there is a osmotic pressure, in that system osmotic pressure is exerted, that's why osmosis process takes place through the semi-permeable membrane. Okay, but here the water can be distilled, nothing but purified by the reverse osmosis. What is meant by reverse osmosis? Reverse osmosis occurs when a pressure higher than the osmotic pressure is applied to a solution to filter out the solute molecules. Solute molecules means nothing but whatever the microbes, ions, heavy metals, whatever is present in the normal potable water. From that potable water, it will be completely, all the solute matter will be removed. Only the purified water we want to collect. So how can you collect means by the reverse osmosis process. So where there is a osmotic pressure, then osmosis occurs. But now in this system we are applying the pressure higher than the osmotic pressure. Actually see here, this is the solution and this is the purified water, and middle of these two we can observe the semi permeable membrane. Actually osmosis means what happened from the lower concentration to higher concentration. Sorry, from the higher concentration to lower concentration, the molecules will be moving on through this membrane. That is called osmosis. But here reverse osmosis takes place. How the reverse osmosis takes place? We are increasing the pressure more than the osmotic pressure. Where there is the osmotic pressure, osmosis occurs. But to avoid that osmosis, we are increasing the pressure of the system. So when the pressure of the system is increased, actually from this solution the molecules have to move through this membrane. But here that is not happened. The molecules are moving to this side only. That is nothing but reverse osmosis, in a reverse manner, backward movement of the molecules. So finally we can collect only the purified water on one side of the limb. In the other side of the limb we can see that is the solute particles will be stopped here only, and all the solute particles will be accumulated in the another side of the limb. Actually in the osmosis what happened? From this is the solution having the higher concentration, and this side there is no solute molecules having the lower concentration. So from here to here the molecules have to be moved through the semi permeable membrane. That is the osmosis. But that process is not takes place here, and reverse osmosis is occur. How the reverse osmosis occur? When the pressure is applied greater than the osmotic pressure. So that's why the molecules are moving backward into the higher concentration only, and on the other side of the limb we can collect only the purified water. This process is called reverse osmosis. So after crossing this semi-permeable membrane, the solute particles will be accumulated this side only. Only the purified solvent we can obtain on the other side of the limb. This purified water we are used in the preparation of the parenteral product. So this is about the reverse osmosis. Now we have completed all the three processes for the preparation of the parenteral product. What are the three processes I said to you? That is, first one compression distillation, second one multiple effect still, third one reverse osmosis. So by these three processes, by using any one we can prepare the water for injection, which is used as the most commonly used vehicle in the parenteral product. And along with this water for injection we can also use other vehicles like bacteriostatic water. So how to prepare those bacteriostatic water and the remaining vehicles we will discuss in the next class.